Okay, it's just gone after 10 o'clock, so I can see lots of people coming in. So I'll just wait a few seconds before more people come in, but I'm very excited to share this webinar with everyone. So I'll just wait about 30 seconds. For those of you here in Perth, we are lucky to have a beautiful day here in paradise. Got some people saying hello back to you, great to see. Lots of familiar faces joining, so it's an honour. So it's just gone after 10, so I'm going to get started. So those that are in late, they'll just have to come in. So welcome everyone who's decided to join this, and congratulations for investing the time into working on you, whether it's you personally or you, your business. Congratulations for investing the time to work on you. So basically, I'm going to be sharing over the next hour about 30 odd years experience with business and with life in relation to that F word, that scary word. Now, I'm going to run through the formula for change, which I feel is a great framework in this situation. I'm also going to go through a lot of common challenges that people have, whether you're a business owner, whether you work for somebody else, whether you're thinking of starting your own business. I'm going to talk about some common challenges that people often don't talk about. And I'm going to end up with some steps of ideas and things that you can do to change and improve your situation. So I urge you to turn your emails off. I urge you to turn your phone off, because if you're present for this next hour, I really want you to be present so that you can learn heaps and take some notes. Have a pen, take some notes. There might be one thing that you take away from this that could potentially change the direction, slightly tweak your direction of life around finances forever. So I really encourage you, if you've taken the time to actually be here, to be here and be here present. So I'm going to give lots of recommendations for people who do want some help, and at the end I'll have questions and answers, and I'll also have an opportunity, if you would like to have a one-on-one with me afterwards, I'll give you an opportunity to have a one-on-one afterwards. So that's, you know, what we're actually here all about today. So who am I to give you all this kind of information? Who am I here giving you this? Well, I'm not an accountant, and it's interesting because I've been asked to speak many times to banks and to financial institutions, and I'm not an accountant, I'm not a bookkeeper, and I'm not a master of financials. What I do have is over 30 years business experience. I'm a business coach. I've been coaching humans for over 30 years, but also have been coaching business owners for over a decade. I have published my book, What's Your Plan, last year. For those of you that have read it, it basically was everything I had in my heart that I wanted to share to make a difference with people's lives. I've done a lot of sporting achievements, so tenacity, having a plan, getting focus is second nature to me. Probably my biggest achievement, my biggest achievement sporting wise would have been swimming solo to Rottnest, or doing a couple of Ironman races. I've also been happily married for over 30 years to my husband. So actually 37 years, a couple of days ago. So commitment is my middle name. So if I get it, I'm like a dog with a bone. So that's who I am. So you're not going to get some big financial guru or anything like that. I'm just talking from my experience at what I've learned. The key takeaways, the things that have made a difference to me and have made a difference to my clients' financials, that have been instrumental in getting them in changing their whole life. If you get your financials sorted out, it can change your whole life. I've got so many clients that, you know, I met maybe 10 years ago or 8 years ago that just had no understanding of their financials, didn't have an understanding of where they were going, had all this uncertainty, and then now years later, just through little steps, they're in a totally different situation. Now that has massive effects on their family, their business, their team, their kids, everyone. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So first thing here, the formula for change. So with the formula for change, I've used this for many years with my family, with my clients. The formula for change is saying, what are we dissatisfied in this particular context in our life? What are you dissatisfied about? And if you had to give yourself a score of what you were dissatisfied, so we're talking about financial today. So if you're dissatisfied about your financial situation, you might give it a 10 out of 10. But we're wanting to really get clear on what is that dissatisfaction. Times that by the vision. Now, a positive vision is always more powerful than a negative vision. So if, and by a negative vision, I'm talking about going bankrupt, going to receivership, things like that. A positive vision is always more powerful. So it might be that you want to have a year off. It might be, and you want to backpack the world with your kids, like my husband and I did when I was not well. It might be that you want to sell your business. So what is the vision in this context? So you can use this formula for anything. You can use this formula for, say, fitness. You can use it for your house, anything. So what is that dissatisfaction level? If you give it a score out of 10 times the vision, how clear are you on your vision of what success is? So do you know how much money you want to retire with? Do you know how much money you want to sell your business with? Do you know how much money, if we're talking about financials, that it will take you to get to financial freedom? So what is that vision of success and how crystal clear is it? Can you give that score a 10 out of 10? Plus first steps. What first steps are you doing to change your situation? Because this is a formula for change. So you could use this with your fitness. You might say, I'm dissatisfied being unfit and puffing every time I go upstairs, but I'm not that dissatisfied because I'm not doing anything about it. And my vision is I don't believe it can happen. And so consequently, I'm not doing anything. So what are the first steps you need to do? And it could just be a micro step. A step in the right direction is more powerful than no step. So that must be greater than resistance. So at the moment, if there's no change, the resistance is 100%. So we need to get that formula for change cranked up so that you can start those first steps, so that you can start the change. So this is what I'm going to go through today to help people understand. And please write this formula down. It's amazing. I used to use it on my kids when they were little. When they would be dissatisfied about something, we would do the formula for change. And I've had them come back to me now as adults and say, hey, Mum, let's do that fancy formula again. I'm having a problem breaking through this. I need you to help me. And we just break it down little bit by little bit. So the first one, dissatisfaction. That's the first step here to say, okay, what are you actually dissatisfied about in your financial situation? What are you dissatisfied about? Is it that you don't understand your financials? Is it that you need to do some learning? Is it that you're not earning enough money? So you're potentially not in the right job? Is it that you don't know how much your business is worth or how much you're going to sell it for? What is it that you're actually dissatisfied about? Is it that you haven't actually spent the time to learn about it? You might not actually understand financials. Now, I'm going to go through some of that today. And with clients I work with, we work on that all the time because, you know, as I explain in my book, we don't know what we don't know. And if, say, for example, financials is a really grey area for you, well, brain surgery is as well. If you don't know about something, there's that first quadrant of learning where you don't know what you don't know. And then once you've decided, I'd like to really know more about this, you go to the next quadrant where you actually start to know what you don't know. And most of you on this webinar today, if you have a grey area around financials, you've identified there's a lot of stuff that I don't actually know. And now I know I don't know it. So then we want to get to the next quadrant where you're actually starting to get into the subconscious consciousness. So you're starting to get to that next level where you can drive your car, without thinking about it. So you get to that next level. So it's okay not to know about it because you haven't spent time working on it. That's just what it's like with everything. So what are you actually dissatisfied at the moment in relation to financials? Is it your learning? Is it your home financials? Is it you don't see an end game? Is it your business financials? What is it? And I'd like everyone to write down on your own notes. You don't need to share it. write down what you're dissatisfied about so that we've got this point in time where you've actually written down, you've committed, I am dissatisfied about this at the moment to do with financials. And that's going to be a clue so that by the time you finish this webinar, you'll be going, right, I know I need to do work on that. So what are you dissatisfied about? Now, is it that you're just over broke? Is it that you've just got a job? And this is a common one that I see like time and time again. I reckon every day. I tell you, if I got $1 for every day that I have this conversation with somebody, I would definitely be not a millionaire of hearts, I'd be a millionaire of money by now. So what people do is they spend more than they earn. Whether you're self-employed, whether you're a business owner, or whether you're going to start a business, getting clear of not being just over broke, not just having a job. So many times, you know, I'll see people that will start a business and they're working ridiculous hours, a lot more than they did when they were employed, and they're actually earning less money because they didn't actually sit and think about, okay, how much do I need to earn to get more than I did before? So this common thing of people actually spending more than they earn is quite normal. Having a massive overdraft is quite normal, but it doesn't have to be that way. So with businesses, having a clear business plan and having a financial model of what success looks like, if you've already started the business now, or if you haven't started the business before you start. I reckon over the last 3 months, I've had probably 3 or 4 people that have come to me to do a business plan for a business I was starting. They've already quit their job. Once we did the model, they realised it wasn't actually possible. There wasn't enough hours in the day to charge the going rate to make more than they were making before. So, you know, getting that understanding of, okay, you know, where are we situated at the moment? What is our financial model of success? And, you know, if you're in a business relationship with partners, have you had a discussion around financials? Do you have different understanding of financials? Have you got very clear on what is our budget? What is our target turnover? What is, if we're talking about home financials, you know, how much do we need to cover every month to pay all our bills? How much do we need to cover to go forward? So often these are things that have never, ever, ever been talked about. And different people have different financial bias. They have different financial educations. And so what happens? They avoid it. They just don't talk about it, whether they're a couple at home or whether they're a single person that doesn't actually go and seek to find out how do I get control of my financials, or whether you're a business owner in a partnership or solo, going with the business partnership and saying, okay, where do we want to take this business? What are our fixed expenses? What's our break even? What's our plan to go forward? How much do we want to get the business worth? When do we want to sell it? Some of these questions people have never talked about because they're too scared to say that F word. They're too scared to go down that hole and say it. So when you think about yourself in your business or in your self-employment or in your job, do you have a job? Are you just over broke? Are you spending and earning the same amount, or are you spending more than you earn? Because it's not sustainable. It means you're just like one of those mice going around and around on a circle. So this is my first question for you. Emotions have a big play in financials. And that's why I wanted to just bring it straight out. First of all, first question is, what emotions come to mind when you think of money and financials? What emotions? Because often this is the cause of the blockage. This is often the cause of why people don't talk about it. So please, I want you to write your comments in the chat. I've got the chat here up on my screen. So I'm having a look. I want people to share what is the first emotion that comes up when you think of financials. What's the first thing? Stress, fear of getting it wrong, scary, something you currently don't have, opportunity, fear, curiosity. And I think this is important to write this down as well. If you've chosen what are you dissatisfied about, I think you should actually write down that emotion. Freedom, love it. Want to get it sorted out, want to improve it, love it. So when we think of an emotion and we think of, okay, where does that actual emotion come from? The thing about that is it normally comes from our past. So when we look at an emotion and we say, you know, this is something that I might have felt from when I was a child. So the identity iceberg is a classic way to look at why do we feel this way. So our environment shapes how we think. It shapes how we behave. So are the people that you're currently with, do they all have the scarcity mentality? Are they all walking around saying, I'm broke, you know, I've never got enough, I can't afford that, I can't afford this, we're always just over broke? So what's the environment like you're in currently now? And also, more so, what was it like when you were a child? What was it like when you were a child? Did your parents ever talk about financials? I know for me, it was a bit of a subject that was never spoken about. Was there an abundance mentality? Was money or finances talked about as a tool opposed to something that we don't talk about? And was there that emotional, you know, sick feeling when people started to talk about financials when you were a child? And if that's the case, you've dragged that emotion back into your world every day today. So we're wanting to look and say, all right, so with my identity, do I identify myself with being somebody who has an abundance mentality? So if somebody's saying to themselves, I'm scared about money, I'm no good at money, I'm no good at financials, I don't understand financials, guess what happens? They're no good at financials. Their identity is linked to someone who doesn't understand financials, someone who's got the scarcity mentality. I mean, there's enough money to go around in the world. It's just it's a currency, which is why it's called, you know, it's called currency, but it's like a river. It flows past, and it's up to us to understand how we want to deal with that flow in our life. So having the identity of somebody who has the abundant mentality and understands financials and is in control of your financials. You can get in control, whether I've worked with businesses that turn over like 300 million that are not very good at their financials. It's just extra zeros. Or whether you're, you know, working in a startup situation where you're having to really finely tune every cent. Having that identity of abundance, having that identity of, I understand my financials, I'm on a path to financial freedom, or on a path to building my business, whatever that path is, change that identity. Because once you change that identity, your values change, your beliefs change, and your skills change. Because then you start to learn about different things. Your skills in financials become better. Your beliefs around financials become better. And as you can see at the top, what happens is your results, your behaviors, your decisions, your actions are totally different once you change the identity underneath the surface around financials. So we need to find out, why is that fear happening? So that's the dissatisfaction link, and what we can do to change that. Is it learning about budgets? Is it learning about profit and losses? Is it learning about personal financials? What do you have to do to change? Is it having a conversation? Often couples, business partners or couples at home don't talk about financials. They just don't talk about it. So when do we have to have the conversation to get on the same page? That's the important thing. Because, you know, this definition here that I love, you know, the definition of insanity, you know, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So if you're wanting a different result in relation to your financials, something's got to change. And my goal of doing this webinar, because I hear it time and time again, all this mystique and all this feeling sick in the stomach and this anguish around financials, from this webinar, I'm hoping that something will change, that you will change something, whether it's in a big organization, whether it's in your job, or whether it's in your own personal financials at home. So if you're thinking to yourself, am I doing the same thing and expecting a different result? Do I buy something, save up for some material thing, buy it, and then I've got it, and then I want another bright, shiny object? Am I spending more than I'm earning? I want you to ask yourself that question. What's got to change? And if you start to think of what's got to change, what's going to happen is you're going to get different results. And, you know, the key here is habits. And this is something that I really want everyone to have imprinted on their brain. Wealth is a habit. It's a habit. It doesn't matter whether you earn, you know, this much money or this much money. If your habits are not wealth and abundance habits, you're always going to be poor. You know, so often I see people and they go up on the mines and they make lots of money. I know so many people like this. But what happens? They just spend more and they spend more and they spend more. And so they've got a flashier car with a bigger HP, a flashier house with a bigger mortgage, and send the kids to flashier schools. So this pressure of financials because they needed more stuff to impress people that don't care. People are only interested, you know, in what's going on in their own head. They don't care about what's going on in your head. So it's really important to think, okay, if wealth's a habit, what is the habit that you need to change? What is that habit? So have you ever wondered why some people that they might be poor, and there's been a lot of studies done on this, and they win lotto, and 5 years later they're back to the same situation again? And that's exactly right, because it's a habit. So I'm wanting everyone to think about their habits and around financials. What habit, this is my second question that I really want you to think about, because this is key to everyone doing something different after this. What habit around financials and money do you need to change? And I want you to share in the chat, because I'm seeing here so many of the same things that I've seen over the last 10 or 15 years. The same, people feel the same. That's why I just wanted to bring it out in the open. So what habit around financials and around money do you need to change? So it might be you've got to learn about it. It might be you've got to have some conversations with some key people. Awareness we've got here. Look at budgets. Yes, every business should have a budget if you've got a business, and every home should have set up their financials so that they have a path to financial freedom, so that it's not just money in, money out, the same every month. So what have we got? Manage money better, stop spending unnecessarily, yep, budgeting, overspending. So these are all brilliant habits. And the thing is, habits are linked to our identity. And so if we can identify what is the habit we need to change and change it to a more positive identity, it's going to be life-changing, absolutely life-changing. More intent, reduce small spends. And I think, you know, the word reduce gives that scarcity mentality. So I like to try, and when I work with people, is have more of a positive mentality. So instead of saying, oh, I want to reduce spending, I want to budget spending, just say, I'm on a plan for financial freedom, or I'm on a plan to have a year off and have a sabbatical, or I'm on a plan for increasing the value of my business so that I can retire at 45 and sell it for $3 million. I mean, I've worked with people where we bought the business for a very small amount of money, worked with them on this plan, and then they've sold it for like 10 times that amount because they've stuck to that financial plan. Because when people are looking at buying a business, they need to look at that those habits, those financial habits. So instead of telling your brain, I want to stop this, I want to hold people, our subconscious doesn't like stopping something, and it doesn't like the scarcity. So instead, twist it around and have that vision for success. I want to be financially free, so I'm choosing to have a picnic at the beach tonight with my partner and a beautiful bottle of wine that's going to cost me 20 bucks instead of going out and spending $100 at a restaurant where we might not be sure about what the food's going to be like. And it might be noisy and we don't know who's going to be there. We don't know. So it's about making positive choices that will change your habits. Does that make sense? So that they're not scarcity habits, they're positive ones. And I think this habit thing really rung a bell for me in the book Atomic Habits, which I'll give you the details of at the end, because so often people don't link their identity to their habits, but they're so linked. They're really linked. So I want you to think the habit around financials and money that you need to change, but write it down, but write it in a positive sense. So it's not a stopping, it's not a scarcity. Other people have read this book, great, fantastic book. So I want you to think, what's the habit around financials or around money that you need to change, but change it to a positive. So it might be, if you're a business owner, we're going to set aside an hour every week to review our financial plan, review our financial model for success. Does that make sense? So, this is my golden tip. A really way out there golden tip. Spend less than you earn. I know it's simple, but it doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen. Spend less than you earn. And so if my number one tip is spend less than you earn, first thing, do you know how much you're earning? Do you know how much you're spending every single month? Do you know how much you're actually committed for every single month? So in a business, it's really important to know, what are my fixed expenses? What are my wages that I'm committed to every single month and every single week? What am I committed for? So that then you can have a look and track for, okay, how am I going to go forward? How can I actually spend less than I earn? Whether it's in my business or whether it's in my home financials. So question is, are you tracking your cash flow? Your in versus out, whether you're a home or whether you're a business or both. Are you tracking them and looking forward ahead at what you actually want to achieve? And, I had this gorgeous client when I taught them how to do cash flow tracking and projection, is they decided that this cash flow idea was a pot of gold. That's what they called it. They hated the word cash flow projection, so they called it the pot of gold, because what happened was every time they wanted to go on a trip or achieve something or invest in something, they worked out, how could this happen? How could we make it happen in our cash flow? So it's about choices. It's about positive choices. So do you regularly track your cash in versus your cash out? And that very simple point, which is my golden tip, spend less than you earn. And I know you're probably thinking, Suze, that's really ridiculous. That's such a simple concept. I know it's simple, but I meet business owners every day and have for, long, many decades. And that is not common knowledge. That is not something that people do. Common sense is not very common. That's something that people are not doing in business and they're not doing in their personal life, because I do sincerely feel a lot of it is linked to those negative emotions. They've not twisted it around and turned it into a positive vision of success. So instead of saying to the team, we are working really hard and we're tracking our cash flow because we'd like to buy a new computer systems for everyone. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at tracking our spending. Instead of having that scarcity mentality, it's where you want to go to. So if you're not tracking your cash in and your cash out, your spending versus your income, I really want you to put that as an action to start to become a habit, because then you'll know where you want to go. Then you'll know what success looks like. So this book, another book, which I'll give you details of at the end, my head's covering this, but building habits around personal finances. I think this picture out of the Barefoot Investor has been the most instrumental in some of the people that I know in sorting out their personal financials in a positive way. So setting up an understanding of how much money do we have coming in, and let's set up our bank accounts. And just instead of budgeting, people, that's the scarcity. Instead of budgeting, saying, okay, well, this is what we're committed for in our mortgage. This is what we're committed for in our expenses. We're going to have that direct debited into here every single week. And we're going to have a certain percentage going into our Mojo account and into our wealth. So they set the buckets up so that then that way you don't have to budget. There's no scarcity mentality. It's, we know we've got $200 a week to splurge. Fabulous. What are we going to splurge it on? We know we've got a certain percentage put away, direct debited, set up every single week for our holiday because we want to go on holiday. We know we've got a certain percentage set up every week to go into financial freedom. So setting this up as a once-off to get set up for your home financials can be a revolutionary for people. I've just seen it give people so much financial freedom in a positive sense and so many choices that it has changed the way that they live because they don't have this guilt of I can't afford it. They don't have this I should budget. Set it up once and set the buckets, set the direct debits, and it's done. And then you'll see slowly but surely the bank accounts where the money's growing and growing and growing, and it just will release tension around couples at home or people if they're by themselves running a home because they know they're on a path to freedom. They know they've set the path for what financial freedom is to them. So this is a huge opportunity for people to have that positive, proactive plan of what financial freedom looks like for them and understanding it. So when we talk about business as well, often people say to me, you know, I don't understand all about the business or anything like that. So they don't understand the terms, they don't understand what the reports are. So for those that are home businesses or those that are at home, this might be a bit of double dutch to you. But there's basically a couple of, and these are diagrams out of my book, there's a couple of reports or documents that I feel that everybody should be looking at every month in their business. So we've got a simple profit and loss here. So a profit and loss is basically showing you everything you've sold in the month, all the invoices that you've sent out. So if you're a small business or a startup, a profit and loss, the top line is just saying all of the invoices, all the income that you've sent out in the business. And then coming down from the profit and loss, we've got the total of all the sales. And then underneath that is the cost of sales. So sometimes people say, oh, I don't understand the terms, COGS, all those sort of things. I don't understand them, or cost of goods, cost of sale. That's just the stock. That's just what it costs to sell your goods or service. It might be that you have contractors. I would put them in there as well. So that's the cost of whatever that product is that you've sold. And my suggestion would be, if you don't have the costs aligned with the products, you'll never know which products have got more margin in than others. So when we talk about margin, again, that's a word that sometimes people say, oh, I don't like these words, you know, margin. You know, it's all these complicated words. All margin means is if we've got $100 that we sell a product to somebody and it costs us, say, $50 to manufacture that product or to produce that service, then the remainder that's left, the other $50, is the margin. So that's the profit. That's the profit margin out of the product. So then underneath that, we've got gross profit. So when people say, oh, gross profit, net profit, I don't understand the difference. The gross profit is the profit that you have after you've sold the product. So that's the expense that goes towards the product. So I hope I'm not losing. This is no other expenses yet. Gross profit is the profit that you have after you've done the product or service that you've given the person and you've paid for whatever that is that you've given that person. So if you bought a widget, you've sold a widget, the gross profit is after you've paid for the widget. So then underneath that is all your operating expenses. And then there, your standard operating expenses, where your rent, anything like that, for that period of time, for that month that you're doing the profit and loss of, or for the year. And then right at the bottom, you've got your net profit. So if someone says to you, what's the difference between gross profit and net profit, just remember the net profit is right down the bottom. That's what you actually will get at the bottom that's left for you, for the business to go forward. Now, a common mistake I see people do is they look at how successful their business is by the profit and loss, but not all the cash goes through to profit and loss. So this is where there's a bit of mystique. So the profit and loss is what's happened in your income. So the income, the sales, plus the expenses to make those sales and the operating expenses in any given period of time. It's sort of like a movie. So it's what happened in that period of time. Then next to that, the other report that I like to look at regularly, preferably once a month, is your profit and loss. So often people, this is one of those things where they glass over and don't understand it. It's not complicated. All it is everything that you own and everything you owe, which at the bottom is your equity. So there is things that might be current things like, things that you own. It might be money in the bank. It might be stock that you've bought. These are current things. And then you've got current things that you owe, which might be creditors, bills that you're going to pay. It might be an overdraft. It might be credit cards. GST goes in the balance sheet, GST that you've collected and GST that you owe. So when we look at the balance sheet, we're actually looking at the health of the business. So the difference between the balance sheet and the profit and loss is that the balance sheet is one day. It's like a photo. It's a snapshot of the business at that particular day, at that particular time. So we always want to look at them together, because often people will look at just the success of the profit and loss, but overdraft's not on there. Debtors and creditors are not on there. That debtors are people who actually owe us money, and creditors are people who we owe money. So they're not on there. And then you've also got long-term debts. Like you might have a loan for a car over 5 years. You might have a loan for a building that you're paying off. That's in the balance sheet. That is not on the profit and loss. So remember, the profit and loss is all our sales minus the cost of making those sales, whether they're products or labour, equals our gross profit minus all our operating expenses equals our net profit over any period of time. It could be a week, a day, a year. The balance sheet is a photograph, a snapshot of one day. At that particular day, what was the health or the wealth of that business? What was everything that you owe and everything that's people that you owe money to, everything that you own minus everything that you owe. And down the bottom is the equity. That shows you the health of your business. Now, there is a conduit in between these two, which is really important. And, people, if they're right into Excel spreadsheets and they're right into being really analytical, they might do this for their home. So if you're a homemaker and you think glassed over is not important to you, it's actually, you could do a profit and loss and a balance sheet at home. What equity do we have in our house? How many bills do we have? What are our current expenses? You could do that in your home as well. What's our income coming in? But you don't need to do that. That's why I showed the simple bucket for home, because once you've set it up, you can just set and forget. But I think it's important to note, if you're wanting financial freedom and if you're wanting to have more clarity around financials, having different bank accounts set up will help that. So always have a bank account for GST and tax so that it automatically goes in. I see people that spend it and then the bank comes and, the government comes and wants their tax and they've spent it. So have a bank account for a trading bank account for your taxes and for a profit account as well. So that if you're wanting to get to investing back in the business, you've got a profit account. So the other thing that's really crucial is the actual cash flow is the conduit between the budget, between the profit and loss and the balance sheet. So both of them have cash going in and out of them. So remember, we've got GST payable, GST received on the balance sheet, as we do have car payments, as we have stock, they're all on the balance sheet, and we have all the other money going in and out of the profit and loss. So that's why sometimes people will say to me, hey, I've got a profit on my profit and loss, but I've got no money in the bank. Well, that's because they're not doing a cash flow projection. That's because they're not taking into account what is the actual flow of cash going in and out of the business. Are you paying off debts? Are you buying too much stock? Sometimes businesses are doing so well that they can self-employ because they're growing too quickly and buying too much stock. So it's really important to have that cash flow projection that is the conduit between those two documents, and have a budget, a profit and loss budget projection, so that the actual profit and loss budget projection is where you work out your model of success. So if you can see what success looks like in your business, it's so much easier to share it with the team and to go forth and do it. And I've read so many books and studies about sharing financials with team members, and time again they say transparency is the best thing. So you might not want to share every little minor detail, but often I'll say to business owners, do you share with people what their target is? Or we haven't worked it out ourselves. Well, hold on, you don't know what your target sales is. Your team doesn't know what your target sales is. You don't know what the gross profit margin is. How are you going to actually achieve it? It's impossible. So having that profit and loss budget projection is basically saying, okay, let's have a look what success looks like. Based on the last 12 months, this is what we're selling every month. Based on our product groups, these are the ones that have most margin, and the team should know that. They should know what are the products with the most amount of profit in. And then based on that, these are our budgeted expenses, and someone needs to be accountable for holding the door on that and monitoring that, so that there's certain things that need to be reviewed regularly, and certain memberships that people don't need all the time, or subscriptions. So if they're not budgeting, money can just be leaking out without you noticing it. So the profit and loss budget is basically the future model of success of your business, at what success looks like. Because if you can't see it, it's really hard to actually happen. And then you can track it. You can track it and say, okay, well, our wages to revenue, so that's every dollar that we sell, how much wages, what's the percentage of wages that we need to make that dollar? Are we tracking that? I've seen people that have got greater and greater sales, but then the wages are going up more than the sales are going up because everyone's getting slacker. So it's an important one to understand and to actually track. But then the cash flow is generally about 3 months ahead, and that's a conduit between all of the cash that's coming in and out of the business at saying, what does success look like? If we want to have positive cash flow, then we need to be actually tracking what's coming in and what's going out, and what that success looks like. So I hope I'm not getting too complicated, but it's really, really essential that if you want success in your business financials or your life financials, you need to get clear on what success looks like. And if that's in any kind of partnership, in business, in life, with a sales team, with a production team, they need to know too. They need to know what success looks like, so that they can be enrolled and inspired to actually go and do it. Because if you're paying for their labour, they need to know how important that labour is, and how important whatever it is that their service or delivery is impacting the success of the business. Now, I won't go into too much further detail, but as I said, I'm more than happy to talk to people afterwards. So the next part of our formula is our vision. So get clear on that vision. Get clear on what success looks like in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. Is it that you're going to sell the business? Is it that you're going to have financial freedom? Does anyone know what their financial freedom date is? I mean, so often people say, oh, I'm working all the time, I'm working, oh, I'm exhausted. But hold on, do we know what is that date that you want to have that financial freedom? And have you set yourself up to say, all right, well, if I put this much away, I'll be able to sell the business here, or I'll be able to retire here, or I'll be able to have a year off here. What is that vision? Because if we don't know what that vision of success is, it's not going to happen. You're just going to end up where you end up. So it's important to get clear on what is that vision of success for you, of that financial success. So this is a formula, another formula. I like formulas because they're nice and easy to understand. So if we look at saying we've got clear on our vision, we've got very clear on what our dream of success is, then the next step, so I'm hoping all of you have in your head now, I know what my vision is. My vision is to sell the business in 5 years, or my vision is to retire by the time I'm this, or whatever that vision is. I'm hoping everyone's got that. Now, if it's just a vision or a dream, it's just a wish. The next thing we need to do is get a specific goal. What is a goal that is actually telling you that you've achieved that? So the goal will be very specific. So by this day, I will have this much in the bank. By this day, I will have financial freedom. By this day, I will have paid off my house. Whatever that goal is, pick a goal and write it down. If you write it down, you're much more likely to achieve it. And then any goal that is a new goal, that is one that is not achieved yet, there has to be a learning element. So what do you need to learn to achieve that specific goal? Do you need to learn more around financials? Do you need to learn more around business value, business worth? There's formulas around that. There's ways to increase the value of the business. That's something that I do with clients, is work on them getting the value of their business up so they can sell it. So what do you need to learn? So I want you, please write down what you need to learn to order it. There's a huge process that goes into selling businesses. Most businesses I've worked with that have sold it takes at least a year once they've decided to put it on the market. But before that, it was probably 2 or 3 years to build it up to sell. Financial freedom. If you're going to do the Barefoot Investor book, which I highly recommend, which I've got at the end for you, that he takes that over like 6 months, 12 months. You could do that, because there's steps, there's little tiny steps to get to that state of having that plan for financial freedom. So what is the learning element that you need to do? Because if you're not there now, there has to be something that you want to learn about. And wouldn't you rather have a positive learning that you've chosen rather than a negative learning about, well, I've had to go into receivership. Well, I've learnt now that I should have done more homework, or I've learnt now that I should have had a business plan, or I've learnt now that, you can't spend more than you earn. There's learning in every kind of tragedy or fall, but wouldn't you rather plan your learning? So coming down from that, get a plan together of how you're going to do it. Write it down. Share it with your business partner. Share it with your life partner. Have a plan of how you're going to do this, whether it's going to have the date night to talk about your financials and get it out in the open, whether it's to sit down with your parents, whether it's your business partner, whether it's your boss, to sit down and work out. You might be, working out with your boss how you can do some salary sacrificing, add some more to super. There's heaps of things you can do. So have some planning on one step closer to achieving your goal, to achieving your dream, your vision of what success is. And then make sure that plan has actions that are actually in your calendar. If it's not in your calendar, it won't happen. So we only have a certain amount of time every single day, every single week. And if there is a plan, it has to be acted upon. And that needs to be in the calendar. And for me, that's probably one of the biggest gaps that people forget about, is have a great goal. Yes, I did this fabulous webinar and I've written a goal. And yes, I'm going to do a plan. I'm going to make some action steps. And they never put in their calendar and they never do it. It's just another webinar that they thought was a great idea and nothing's changed. So I really want this time that you've invested to be different. I want you to make sure you put some time in your calendar to do the actions, whether they're learning actions, whether they're creating a model of success for your business, whether it's sitting in Xero with your bookkeeper and actually making this 2022 budget up. Xero is amazing. It has budget manager in there, so you can just key the budget in. And every single month you get budget actual. And I love it. Green is, yep, on the money. Red is, no, let's see how we can improve. Banks are the same. A lot of banks have budget apps, they're free. Why not use them? So put time in your calendar to do the actions. And that for me is something that so many people forget to do. So look at saying, what is going to get me greater to success? So again, if you looked at this formula, sorry, I haven't moved the slides. Sorry, here we go. I was looking at another slide on a different one. So this is what I've been going through. Get clear on your dreams, get clear on your goals, work out what learning you have to do, create a plan, have some actions, and that's going to increase your success. So in relation to financials, if you say to yourself, I'm not clear on what that dream or what that vision is now, get clearer from today. We've written it down. Pick one goal and get clear on that and get that learning and make a plan and put it in your calendar. So this, you know, the greater your score is in each one of these areas, the greater your success will be and the closer you'll be to financial freedom. So I really want you to decide, what am I going to put, what action am I going to put in my calendar to make it happen? So the last one in the formula of success, the formula of change, this is the change one, that was a success one, is the first steps. What are the first steps that you're going to do? What's going to go in your calendar? What is just one step? It might be, I'm going to download this book and listen to it. I'm going to make an appointment with my accountant. I'm going to sit down with my bookkeeper. I'm going to have a meeting with Suze. I'm going to work out how to do a cash flow projection. I'm going to write the budget in Xero. I'm going to actually look at saying, how much money am I earning and how much money have I spent over the last 12 months? You know, I don't know that. Let's do it. So what is the first step? It just has to be one step. What is that first step that you're going to do to get to that financial freedom place? It's hard for me to look at the camera and look at the slides at the same time. So this one is classic, absolutely classic. Energy flows where attention goes. And I really want everyone to think about this, because if you're not happy with your financial situation now, in any part of your life, whether it's education, business, home, whatever, you need to put some energy into that area. If you put energy into that area, you will get results. You will definitely get results. So that it's identifying, where do I need to put that energy? What do I need to do? What do I need to change? And put some time in to do that energy, to put that energy into it, whether it's tracking your budgets, whatever it is. So I want you to think, where do you need to put energy? What's the one, and this is a question I really want everyone to share in the chat, what is the one area that you're going to commit to putting energy into to get one step closer to your dream? So what's the one area you're going to put some energy into? So it might be home, looking at understanding financials. It might be having a meeting with your business partner. It might be getting your business model, your financial model right. I'm sick of seeing people start businesses and not actually understand what is the model of success. So what is it? We've got better understanding of financials. We've got better understanding of sales. We've got budgeting. We've got choices. We've got lots here. Absolutely awesome. So we want you to commit to one area that you're going to work on that will get you one step closer to financial freedom. Look at where is that gap. Where is that gap that's causing you to feel sick feeling, that's causing your heart to race, that's causing anxiety? You know, and I think anxiety does come a lot with people when they talk around financials, and it's generally due to their lack of confidence and understanding with their knowledge and where they currently are. And a lot of that will have come from our childhood, and a lot of it will have come from us just not putting attention to it. If you never put attention into looking after your physical fitness, would you be physically fit? No. Well, if you're not financially free because you've not ever put any attention to it, that makes sense. So put some attention to it. Spend some time learning, spend some time creating a plan of what that success actually looks like. So I hope you've all put some time into the calendar to actually work on this. My last point here is just so you can take a photo or you can write notes. These are 3 books that I would highly recommend around financials. Atomic Habits. It's about the habit of what's happening in your financial wealth. It's nothing to do with financials, but it's about changing your habits and changing your identity. They have to change first before you can change your financial habits or your spending habits or your mental habits around financials, your thinking habits around financials. The thought happens before the action. So Atomic Habits is a really good one if it's going on in here. Scott Pate's Barefoot Investor for getting very clear on setting yourself up for financial freedom. Amazing. I've seen it transform people's lives. And Keith Cunningham around business is the guru. He is the guru for understanding how to be financially free and increase the value in your business. So depending on where you're actually situated and what your goals are and what success looks like to you, I would recommend, and if you don't like reading paper books, get the audiobooks because audiobooks are easy. Another thing that I also mentioned, so hopefully you've written notes of them, is you don't need to do it alone. You definitely don't need to do it alone. So who do you need in your corner? Have you got a great accountant that you trust? Is he proactive? Is he helping you understand your financials from the past to make decisions for the future? If they're just looking at the past and talking about tax and compliance, they're not a proactive accountant. Have an amazing bookkeeper that helps you with tracking budgets and helps you with tracking cash flow projections. They're qualified at that. You don't need to be. Have a good financial planner that you can sit down with and say, I would like to be financially free by here. How much do I need to put away? Have a good broker so that they're constantly updating your mortgage so that you've got the best rate possible. You know, I've got somebody the other day that I saved them thousands every month just because I said, when did you look at that interest rate last? They'd never done it, not for like 10 years. And they were paying 6% interest or something ridiculous. Have a good insurance broker so that you're properly insured, so that you're mitigating risks. Have a good lawyer so you've got partnership agreements. Work with a coach to hold you accountable. So it's important to have the right people in your team. You don't need to know it all. So, and I'm more than happy to share my contacts. I've got a great team of people that I trust. If you don't have anyone in any of these spots already that you can trust, I'm more than happy to share them with you. So I'm mindful of time. We're just about finished here. So I'm just mindful of time. How can I help people? Those that know me know that my goal is to be a millionaire of hearts. So I'm happy to have a conversation. If you've got a business or want to talk about how to improve it, I'm happy to sit down and have a strategy session if I feel that I can help. If I can't help, I won't waste your time or mine because I want to be able to give some value. So I'm more than happy for you to connect with me and do that. I'm happy to give you my recommendations and to chat about your goals and give you some ideas going forward. Or if you know a business owner that you feel could do with a bit of learning and understanding around here, I'm happy to be connected with them and help. And my book, I would recommend you to read my book because I spent about 10 years writing it. So I would love you to read my book if you haven't read it already. But a lot of you here have already read it. So question time. God, sorry. Not much time for questions, but I will stay here for a little while. So just before you go, I'd like to write in your chat your #1 takeaway from today, just so that I know that I've spent my time wisely and added some value. So #1 takeaway from today. I really want you to share it with me, pretty please, so that we can know that there is a benefit to spending an hour investing in you and your business. So get informed and get rid of fear. I used to be fearful around money, and it's so different when you get rid of it. It changes, it changes, everything changes. Absolutely. Somebody learnt what COGS meant, cost of the sale, cost of goods. Wealth is a habit. That was a big one for me. It is a habit. It's, you see people that are addicted to spending and addicted to stuff. It's just a habit. They buy one and need to buy the next. Cash flow, have a conversation. Absolutely. Have a conversation with whoever it is you need to have a conversation with. What are people's values around money that are involved in the same bank accounts as you? Have that conversation. Habit. Yeah. Another one come up for habit. Definitely. Well, I think I'll stay in here for a minute if there's any other questions, and any other people's takeaway, please put them in the chat, because for me, whenever I do a workshop or a webinar, I often learn from what other people's learning is, where I think, yes, I learned that too. So I hope this time has been a valuable investment for you, and it's going to make you think a little differently and think about, you know, where are you going and are you on the right path to success, and what needs to change, and start to put some time aside and reach out to some people who you know are qualified to help you to make those changes. You don't need to know it all. Made you think. Great, great. Thank you so much for people spending the time. When we have a meeting, if you do want to catch up and if you think I can add some value, we'll talk about your goals and get clear on what you need to change, and get clear on your perspective of your model of success. And I'll give you an outsider's perspective on how I feel you can tweak it and what your blind spots might be to get that successful model going forward, so that you're not just winging it, so that you're actually planning success to go forward. I thank you all for your beautiful thanks, and I'm glad there's been some learning, and thank you for your time, and congratulations on investing the time to you know, look at your future and make it better. And I'm talking about the F word that everyone's so scared of, that I love talking about. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.